So let's talk about Monsters University, which turned 10 years old this month. This Disney retrospective continues to make me feel like an old man. But joking aside, leaving my sophomore year of high school, and as the big fan of Monsters Inc. that I was hyped to go and check this out in the movie theater, and I had a really good time with it. I also had a better time with it than I remembered rewatching it for the purpose of this review. So ever since he was a kid, Mike Wazowski, once again voiced by Billy Crystal, has dreamed of becoming a scarer. So to make his dream a reality, he enrolls at Monsters University, the school in the monster world. And during his first semester, he meets Sully, once again voiced by John Goodman, a natural-born scarer and the son of a really famous employee from Monsters Inc. So Sully and Mike engage in a fierce rivalry that ultimately gets them both kicked out of the MU's elite scare program. So to make things right, Mike and Sully, along with a bunch of misfit monsters, part of a fraternity known as Uzma Kappa, will have to learn to work together. And let me tell you guys, it was really interesting to see the dynamic that Mike and Sully had for the majority of this movie. Mike being the hard-working guy who is fighting from underneath, and Sully, who is practically gifted all of his scaring skills. It was really captivating to see them go toe-to-toe after they were so close in the initial movie. And yeah, it's also really funny to see Randall as Mike's roomie on the first semester there, and to see how geeky he was. And I think this movie really does have a lot of innovative ideas in terms of the design, the animation. Like I said, this is Pixar, so you know it's going to be stellar. The look of a lot of these monsters and the colors the animators are putting on these designs, it's really nice to look at. The scaring school in and of itself is a really neat looking building. And I love the design of this really uptight dean with a stick up her ass. And she's actually voiced by Helen Mirren, who can really do no wrong. I have lauded her legendary status many times on this channel since I've started doing this 3 years ago. And she was just so intimidating, coming off so freaking uptight here. Speaking of intimidating, there's a lot of really scary factors about Monsters University, really playing into what these monsters are actually learning about. That's something that Monsters Inc. didn't really delve into by comparison. And I actually really dig how director Dan Scanlon actually approached a lot of these scenes, kind of like a scary movie in some ways. How about that capture the flag sequence, which takes place in a library, and you have to be as quiet as possible as you would be in a library. And the librarian then turns into this gigantic King Kong-like monster if you make too much noise. That's creative as hell. I also gotta say, the third act of Monsters University, just like the original Monsters Inc., I think is what makes this movie stand out. Because as Mike goes into the human world in an attempt to prove himself to the dean, he's basically going into uncharted territory, and Sully has to go into this door and rescue him. And it's so great what they do to ward off these human police officers. It almost comes off like an Evil Dead movie rather than a Pixar movie. It's probably the least Randy Newman score that Randy Newman has ever composed, and his tones in the background actually kind of intensify this sequence. It's really weird thinking that Randy Newman actually composed this music. And I gotta say, the ending and the message of this movie, I don't want to dig too deep into what it actually is, just in case you've never seen Monsters U. But man, I mean, if the whole purpose of Monsters U was to get this message across, then by golly, it works. Because let's face it, a lot of us were kind of waiting for what Monsters at Work would become. What would a sequel to Monsters Inc. look like? I think they could do a lot of really inventive stuff. What if Boo actually did grow up and Sully had to basically confront her as an adult? And believe me, I think this is still something Pixar can explore down the line, Monsters at Work notwithstanding, of course. But on first glance, when I saw the trailer for this movie 10 years ago, I thought a Monsters Inc. prequel was just the weirdest idea that Pixar had come up with, aside from a movie about cars. And lo and behold, the first 2 acts of this movie, I mean, it's exactly what you would expect. Very much by the numbers, and it's filled with every college movie cliche you could come up with. The characters you come across, including the one voiced by Helen Mirren, you've seen in practically every other college-centered comedy in the past, 20 years or so. Hell, even dating back to Animal House, you've seen a lot of these gimmicks done better in Animal House. And it's odd when you have this many derivative elements coming from Pixar of all places. But when you have the eventual director of Onward behind this thing, Onward having one of the most emotional endings in recent Pixar memory, with the third act that he was able to conjure up and all the inventive ideas that went into Monsters U, I think that's enough to propel it over the top from being at the very least a decent movie. Heck, better than decent. I enjoy Monsters U. I think it's a good Pixar movie. I think the voice talent in here does great once again. I know I had my hot take about Billy Crystal being miscast as Mike Wazowski here, but I feel like his voice talents actually work when the story is centered around him. I actually think it kind of fits better in the college world as opposed to the Monsters, Inc. world. But if you haven't seen Monsters U in a while, I definitely don't think it has the standing power that the original movie has, but this is a fun watch. I think although there's a lot of moments that definitely feel derivative to superior flicks, Monsters U I think is one that will leave a smile on your face upon revisiting it. I'm gonna give Monsters U a B-. For Pixar's only prequel, still a pretty darn fun adventure. Let me know what you thought of Monsters U down in the comments section below. And what is your favorite entry into the Monsters universe? Is it Monsters, Inc. like I'm expecting it to be? Is Monsters at Work your favorite? Guys, I love discussing all things in movies and entertainment here on the regular. All things geeky like in the Disney world. And if you like discussing all these topics, this channel is the place to be, I guarantee you. So please do consider becoming a subscriber and tap on that like button because that really helps spread this content out there to more lovely viewers like you. Guys, y'all are the best. Stay tuned for more videos very soon, including a jam-packed weekend of new releases. That includes Pixar's new development, Elemental. Can't wait to talk about that movie with you guys, and I think I can announce my next retro Disney review. We're gonna circle back again 10 years ago, 2013. This is gonna be an interesting one to look at. This is a live-action Disney movie that kinda was getting thrown through the ringer and back. But let's go ahead and give Oz the Great and Powerful another watch. Speaking of prequels to a superior instant classic, we'll go ahead and take a look at that James Franco fun. Guys, it should be a good time over here this summer. Again, if you haven't subscribed yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Y'all are the best, guys. So with all that being said, back talk, commence.